Hello there, welcome back. Today I'm going to do a special show, How Did I Get Into Films? Now this has been done by a few different YouTube people who have already been doing their own videos on this idea. I mean, Deseki Beppu did one, Solitary Ronin did one, Razor Wire Review did another one. His was like an hour and a half long, his was epic. There's been a lot of them. I waited a couple of weeks before I did mine because I thought I'd think about it for a bit before I did one because it seems an interesting subject, but I'd rather not rush it into and just say, give a couple of like very brief, easy to, easy like response. I'd rather do one that actually had some sort of depth to it. So what I would say is the thing that got me into film, there wasn't only one thing. It was always I was interested. I mean, the joke with me was I was a late arrival as a child. Apparently, because everyone thought there was something good in TV, so I wasn't getting born until I'd finished watching the show. That's how glued to TV I was as a kid. That's how, that's how everyone saw me, and I don't think it's changed that much since then. I'm still viewed as the person with a massive DVD and Blu-ray collection. I'm the person who seems to have seen everything. I haven't, but compared to most people, I've seen a lot, But I mean, honestly, I've always been watching stuff. But I've always been reading as well. I've always been drawing as well. So I mean, it's not just one thing I do. There's quite a few things, but film's always been a big focus for me. The big thing, the first thing I remember really was Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes was everyone was Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Wile E. Coyote, Tweety Pie, Sylvester. I loved them as a kid. I watched them all the time as a kid. It was my thing. My uncle was actually made a tape of Looney Tunes cartoons when I ever came down because I was so obsessed by them. That's how obsessed I was. I also had a lot of older cousins who babysat me a lot. So you end up seeing things when you were young that you probably shouldn't have seen so young. Like the Jaws movies and things. When I was very young, I shouldn't have seen them, but I saw them and I was fine, So early on, I was at that thing of, cause when I was a kid, one of my cousins were teenagers, I saw a lot of stuff that interested teenagers. So early on I got this thing of I wasn't really interested in ratings and what's good for you and all that stuff. It was just like, I'm interested in everything, just show me everything, I don't care, I'll watch it, I'll figure it out my own way. So that's my attitude. My parents weren't particularly big fans of that when I was younger, so I got the normal, restrictions of that's not good for you, not watching that, But I made do. I mean, as I said, I was always a big reader as well. And reading, you can imagine things a lot worse than you can see on screen. So I was always watching stuff, but I watched stuff a lot on TV rather than the movies, going to cinema, because no one in my family apart from me is a big cinema goer. I mean, essentially, I had to wait for a big film to come out and just beg people to take me to see it. So, there's a couple of things I remember, they're good and bad. I mean, I had to sit through Annie when I was a kid. That's not good. Even as a kid, I wasn't a fan of that film. It was like, nah, I don't like this. This is not good. It just bugged me. So then my sister watched it all the time. So it was like, to me, Annie's like a torture experience. It's like the worst. But the first big experience, most people with Star Wars, I was a Star Wars kid. I saw them all in the cinema. But I think I saw them in re-releases. I think I was born when I couldn't see the first one. When it first came out, I saw it. I think I saw it in a double bill with Empire Strikes Back a few years later, and then I saw Return of the Jedi. But I'd seen it on TV before I'd seen it in cinema, but quickly I got the idea of how great it was in cinema. So I saw all the Star Wars films. I saw them all on a big screen in the late 70s, early 80s. I bugged my dad to take me to see them, I even saw a triple bill later on where you got on there was this, once the films had finished, there was a triple bill one Saturday and I ended up going, and because we were in the wrong queue, me and a few friends went in the wrong queue by mistake. We ended up going to the reserved line. So we were actually the first of for all these poor bastards who had to wait in line for ages, and we went in with reserved people. We were the first people who hadn't reserved to buy tickets, so we got the good balcony seats, because this was when you used to have balconies. You did the lower level, you did balconies up above watch the cinema, so we were in front of the balcony in the best possible seats seen these 3 films. That was great. But the first big one actually was Superman 2. I mean, Superman 2 is a terrific film. It's a terrific entertainment film if you're a kid. And even now I really enjoy it. I mean, it's easily my favourite of the Superman films. And it's that film, I mean, it's the film that you have a lot of sentimental attachment to still. And I still think it's a really good film. And even though it's made by 2 different directors, I think they brought the best of each other out, because having more than one director in this case meant that no directors like bad habits came into it. So I mean, you had the first film Superman, which I liked a lot, but the second half of that film is not great. It's pretty cartoony, and even as a kid I was enjoying it, but you could still tell that it kind of slowed down and was like, what's the ending? It's like these things happen, but there was no real threat in that film. So even when you were watching it, you knew there was a lot of terrific stuff in it. It wasn't really great. But the sequel had the villains, and I think a lot of the stuff Richard Lester brought to that film, it really appealed to me when I was a kid, and he still does now. Like the whole idea of Superman having to deal with, real life, and people being pained and people being grumpy, and that always appealed to me, this pure spirit just dealing with life. And that one sequence where he was going down, where Lois Lane was trying to trick him into revealing himself, she'd kind of figured it out. And he has to save her from those rapids without using his powers. That was a terrific idea and terrific sequence. Because it's action, but it's also telling character. I mean, if you see the original idea they had, it was a terrible idea of falling out of the building, which was awful. This was a terrific sequence. It still sticks in my head as a great way to do a superhero sequence. Like, show the character by limiting what they can do. So Superman 2 was a big thing for me as a kid. I mean, if you'd asked me then, I'd probably said it was Star Wars, definitely Star Wars. But looking back, Superman 2 probably had more of an impact, even though I didn't realise it at the time. It was just because it was, I learned I really liked Richard Lester films. I saw a lot of his films as a kid. I mean, there's the Musketeer films, there's, Funny Thing Happened Away to the Forum, Juggernaut. These were always playing TV, and I always seemed to really like his take on things, because it was very, even before you knew what satire was as a kid, it was this attitude that was different from the rest. And now he was almost like a fresher for finally going on to Kubrick later on, because it was that same sensibility of, there was don't take everything seriously, but playing up the heroism but then mocking it at the same time, which really appealed to me. Again, the Looney Tunes was the same thing. It was like there was a mockery of the conventions, which I just really went for in a big way. It was always something I really enjoyed. It was, even though I couldn't articulate it, when you'd asked me what it was that interested me, that's what kind of interested me. And it's something that's developed over the years, something I've really always liked in films. Even though I really enjoy the kind of more directors who have like sincerity as well. But it made me, I think early on, I was always on guard against fake sentimentality. There's a lot of fake sentimentality around. And that was always my bugbear. Fake sentimentality was always something I was always very, I was very wary of. So even though I was like a big Spielberg fan as a kid, I was still kind of wary of some of the films because he laid it on a bit thick. But one of the other big films as a kid was Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom. Both of them, I always think the Indiana Jones films are those 2 films, and there's other ones they made, but I don't keep the other ones. Those are the 2 that are the real Indiana Jones films. Those are the 2 they made when they were still figuring it out, and there's still a fun of inspiration coming from those ones. The rest of them are just trying to repeat what they'd done years ago. and you can't really go back. You have to try something new, and I think that's what the problem with the follow-ups after that is, like, they'd done it and they'd moved on and they still wanted to go back and they couldn't really go back. But those two films really, you know, I mean, Temple of Doom I didn't see till later because I wasn't allowed to go see it because it was meant to be really violent. But you still saw it on TV and you still taped off the TV and watched it a lot, and Monkey Brains, you know, that was quoted in my in the school playground. I mean, it was amazing to how much we used to talk about films we weren't allowed to see, or people had seen on TV late night in the school. I mean, basically you always talk about stuff and you always describe films to each other, like, this happened, that happened. And when you finished the films, it was almost like sometimes a disappointment because they weren't as good as the schoolyard description of him, you know. And then you'd see other films that were described to you, even better. I remember The Big Red One, which it's one of those films I saw when I was quite young, when I was a teenager, that had described to me earlier on that lived up to what the description, which is it's a Sam Fuller film about this infantry unit going through World War II. I'm going to do a video on it soon, and we see a description of, because it was Luke Skywalker was in the film, and nowadays I think it was a Lee Marvin film, but then it was Luke Skywalker's in the film, and talking about D-Day, going through D-Day and things, and describing all these sequences. And it was a great description in the school playground, and then you finish the film, it's like, God, this film's really good. It's as good as, it's better than what they described. Most of the time it wasn't. But we used to describe stuff like Gremlins and all the rest of it in school because everyone was like, I need to see that film, I really need to see that film. And you know, you'd always be hearing about it. I mean, that's the thing about school playgrounds is kids hear about especially my class, we all must have had like cousins or brothers or sisters who were older than us. So we were always talking about stuff that was well above our age range because we were all interested in that. So that was always fascinating to hear people talking about things they wanted to see. I mean, I remember someone comics of Alien once when I was very young, and we were talking about Alien, what it was going to be and all the rest of it, because none of us had hope in hell of seen it because we were all about 6. And then when I finally saw the film after years later, it was kind of disappointment because there's some part of your brain had talking about it in the school playground was greater than the film itself could ever be, because your imagination went wild. But I've never been a massive fan of the first Alien. I like it, but it's not the film I've got an emotional attachment to. The second one, yes, but the first one, not really. So, Looney Tunes, that kind of absurd humour I really loved. Superman 2, all the Richard Lester films. Star Wars is another big one. I used to read all the Star Wars comics and everything else. But I've always had this Star Wars. Star Wars I've always liked, but I've always known that there's other stuff out there. It's not just Star Wars. I think a lot of Star Wars fans tend to focus so much on Star Wars and what their ideal of it is, and it's like there's other stuff there. You can't. It's going to go ways you don't want it to go. So I've always really enjoyed it, but I've always been a Star Wars fan, but I've never been a fanatic. I've always had that kind of distance because it's like there's other things around. I mean, I used to watch, when I was a kid, I used to watch the old Battlestar Galactica TV show, and then when the new one came out I watched that as well. So I'm a fan of both. I've even got them all on Blu-ray, even Galactica 1980. But it was like, I was always watching things, I was getting interested in things. I remember a film that was way too old for me when I saw it, but mainly because it was a bit more grown up themes. It wasn't because there was anything in it that was scary or anything. It was Big Wednesday. I saw that when I was young, it was on TV. And I must have been 8 or 9 or something. But it had a massive impact on me because it was something about that film, because it's a film that starts out very wild and very silly, and then it's by growing up and it becomes more tragic and dark as he gets older. Then it's a great finale as they go and do this big surf, the Big Wednesday surf, they go and surf it. And it's about growing up and growing beyond your fame and things like that, and it's a wonderful film. But it had a real effect on me because it was like the first film about grown-ups. It wasn't stale, it wasn't dull. It was about disappointments and life and developing how life develops. It was the first one that really got to me. So that had an impact. And there's other stuff, is like, you don't know what you see in TV sometimes, like when did you see it, how did you see it, like how the hell did I know that sequence, because you must have picked up stuff when you're young and no one was watching what you were watching. So I remember seeing The Heretic, the John Boorman Heretic, the disastrous Heretic, and I got to the end, I was like, I've seen this ending before. I must have seen it as a kid. Well, I should not have been watching it, I'm sure my parents didn't know I'd been watching it. And I remember, I was like, I've seen this. And I always thought it was like a dream or something. And no, I'd actually seen it somewhere, but I can't remember how I saw it, but it was like, oh, that's weird. I'm sure that's one of the reasons why I've got an affection for that movie, even though it's a bit of a disaster. Because there's lots of stuff you pick up in childhood, you don't know where you saw them, but you've seen them and they're there. I mean, I used to love Ray Harryhausen movies. The first one I saw was Clash of the Titans, which is one of the weaker films, but I've still got a massive affection for it. And then into the rest of them, Jason Argonauts, all those other ones, they're all great. I've now got them on Blu-ray. They're brilliant. And you pick up this stuff and you become really into like films and into... Of course, when you're a kid, there are films that are, you know, fantastical. They're not... there's nothing too adult about them. As you get older, you start to think, I need to start watching stuff that's more grown up. But you hit that period where you're not quite, you know you want to watch them, but you know you probably won't understand a lot of it. But you start to make the headway and start to, you watch things at your own pace, which means you see stuff that's way above your level, and then stuff that's right at your level, and a very randomised thing. And sometimes you understand something, why something affects you, and other times you're like, what the hell was that? Like, I was in another video with The Thing, when I first saw The Thing, I was like, what the hell was that? Because I probably saw it, I wasn't ready for it. Then you saw something like Robocop, which was perfect because it was serious, but there was a sense of humour to it. And so you got the serious effects, but you also got the, you know, the humour and everything else, and it really affected you because it was about, you could tell it was torn about the way the world was at the moment. And it was things where you were interested in what the world was rather than heroes and fantasies. Sorry about scratching my nose a lot, I've had an itchy nose. Sorry. So you pick up things like that, and then you see something like Taxi Driver, which again is another one I saw before I was ready for it, but you can still feel the effect of it and what it was, and it really affected you. And then later on you can rewatch and understand it better. The first thing you're just getting the emotional effects of this character. You can't even contextualise him and what his problem is very clearly, and you're just getting the effect of it. And that's one of the great thing about when you're younger, is even though you're trying to analyse, you're getting a pure input a lot more than you do when you're older. Older, you can actually work things out more. And you've got some defences up. And when you're younger, even a teenager, your defences are... You've got some cynicism as a teenager, but you have a lot more defenceless than you think you are. So a lot of things can come and really just kick the shit out of you as a film. So it's always interesting to watch stuff as a teenager. And some things you love as a teenager that you look back on, you're like, what was I thinking? There's other things you love, you're like, that's not as good as I thought it was. But I mean, something like Taxi Driver I still think it's a great film. It's Scorsese's best film. So that never really changed. I mean, I saw other stuff that I knew they were great, but I couldn't work them out. It was something like Mission Man when I was a teenager. You just try to work that out, and it's like, what the hell is this? This is brilliant, but I don't quite understand some of it, but it's brilliant. And again, something like Big Wednesday, I still love that film, and I still think it's a terrific film. But again, you understand some of it, but you don't understand everything. I remember one of the big impacts I had as a late teenager was some stuff in TV that I really enjoyed, because there's a lot of films out, but a lot of it was in the 80s. You had the Terminator and things like that, which were all great. You had the cyberpunk stuff, even Blade Runner, which I'm never a big fan of. It's good, but it's not great. You still had a lot of garbage, like, you know, the John Hughes shit. You know, John Hughes, like, I never got into John Hughes at all. I always thought he was whiny and sentimental, and it was everything I was talking about earlier on at my guard up against. You know, he's almost like the anti-Richard Lester. He's like everything Richard Lester isn't, everything Kubrick isn't. You know, I always think his films are just lies a lot of the time. So, you know, that shit always coming at you, and you're always like, oh, I'd have to listen to this garbage. And everyone's watching those films, and I hated them. So there was that, and there was. This is when you're getting Spielberg produced sequels with Barry's not included and stuff, and Harry and the Hendersons. I was like, I'm not going to see this. This is not what I want to see. And all the good stuff was 18, and all the stuff that I didn't want to see was of the age I could go and see it. So I'd rather just watch stuff at home. So I ended up watching like Miami Vice. It was a big impact. The first few seasons of Michael Mann stuff when he was producing it. That was amazing. That really knocked my socks off because there was a sadness to it. It was a cop show, but it was stylised. It wasn't realistic, but you felt within the stylisation it was telling stuff that was really going on in the world. So it was using the style as a kind of cover for being a bit more brutal about what's going on, and being you give this mood of sadness about the way these people's lives were going on, what was going on with them. So even though they were using a lot of stock TV elements, they were twisting it to their own needs. So they're creating something unique within an old format. Again, that really got to me. That really was something that I responded to. And then the big one was Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks just blew me away. I mean, I was starting to get an idea of who David Lynch was then. I'd seen Dune. I'd seen Elephant Man, but Twin Peaks Elephant Man was another one that always confused me, but I really liked it. It was like, I don't quite get this, but I get it. Which is good actually. I think sometimes you're not meant to get a film first time. Some films, when you see them when you're a bit young, it's good you don't get it. You can watch it later and get the context more, but you're getting the. But sometimes you see when you're younger, you're getting the emotional punch of it and the undiluted version. It's just like coming straight into your brain, which you don't get when you're older. So those films, David Lynch really got me when I was younger. The ones I was allowed to see because it was his 18, but then Twin Peaks came and that really knocked my socks off. It was so much more visual than movies. It was so much more like a cinema experience than movies were. So that one really knocked my socks off. That was just something that was just like, I was obsessed with that for ages. That was just one of those obsessions that I had. I mean, there was other stuff I was really interested in. I mean, I was really interested in Tim Burton doing Batman because I'd seen Beetlejuice when it came out in the cinema, and it knocked my socks off. Then Batman came out. I mean, Batman was one of those ones I was obsessed with a little bit when I was a teenager, because a few months before my dad had a heart attack, so I kind of latched onto that film. He was fine, he got through it, he's fine, he's still around. But obviously an emotional moment, that was the thing I grabbed onto. You know, that was also the time I started going to see films by myself. Like before, I'd rather go with someone else. You feel it was a bit sad going to see a film by yourself. And at a certain point, you don't give a shit anymore. You're just like, I want to see this film, I'm going to go see the film. I'll wait on a bus, I'll go see it. And I started going to see films by myself. And I no longer cared. It was just, I don't care, I'm going to see the film. And that was a great thing for me, because I just started to get interested. And I just did what I wanted then. So you got to see a lot more films. I remember going to see The Abyss in the cinema, and that was great because you were just seeing this unusual film set in the water. It's another one I've had a real affection for, even though I know it was very flawed. But the late 80s when I first started really going by myself, and from then on I've always gone to cinema by myself. If someone wants to come with me, fine, that's good. But if you don't want to come along with me, I don't care, I'll go by myself. I've never been a big, it's never been a big deal for me. I mean, now I've got anxiety, so I don't go as much, but not as much as I'd like, because it's a big thing going to pictures now. But I used to go all the time with myself. It was just something that was simple, and I just wanted to see what I wanted to see. I mean, another film that knocked my socks off when I saw it on TV. This was probably the last big film I saw before, because I went to study film at university. This is the last big influence film I had when I was growing up before I went there, because I always separate pre-university, post-university, or during university, because at a certain point when you go there, you learn certain things about certain films. Because the course I did was more theoretical than practical. You got some practical, but never enough for what I would have liked. I'd have liked a lot more practical. But I got enough, and I got the basics, and I could work it out later on my own. But a lot of it's theory, and I loved all that stuff. I mean, I loved the library, but the one film I saw before, just before I went, was Streets of Fire. The Walter Hill film, massive bomb. You know, he did it after 40 hours. It was his, yeah, give him all the money he wanted to make this film, and it bombed horribly, and it was great. I love that film. It's wonderful. It's one of my favourites, and that was the last one. I always think that was the last like mainline, like emotional, pure kind of comic book type of that thing where comic book's wrong term. It's just somebody got you without any adult intervention, any adult kind of interpretation of it. You just experienced it, and that was it. And it was amazing. That was my last one I had before I went to uni, because I went like 2 months later, and then it was just it was a different experience after that. I mean, I spent a year in Edinburgh first, because I switched courses after the first year because I was in the wrong course basically. I did something that wasn't right for me. But then in Edinburgh, I used to go to the Cameo in the Edinburgh Film House. You'd see a lot of great films there, and you'd start to develop your taste then as well, because you'd go and see like double bills in the cinema. I remember going to see Exorcist in the cinema, and Exorcist 2, the sequel. I remember seeing Doors. And these were all films where you'd go to the cinema at midnight shows, you come out at 5 in the morning, then you'd go to your class at 9 in the morning, so you'd get about 2 hours sleep if you were lucky. You know, that was great. And sometimes it'd be okay, you'd see it during the weekend, but a lot of the time it wasn't. And you'd see the Alien double bills, you'd see all these other ones. You'd go and see the film house, you'd see stuff like Jacob Ladder. I saw the two Jakes, I saw Until the End of the World. Saw a lot of interesting odd films there. You could go and see whatever you wanted, because it was just very different from the norm, and they would have things in that you couldn't get, because I live, you know, away from the city. You have to wait for DVD or VHS at that time and hope they released them. Now you can just go to the cinema and see them. So it was great. Then I went to Sheffield City Film, which again they had art house stuff, and you could go and see whatever you wanted. And I remember I had a student card, so I would go all the time. Plus, especially in winter when it was cold, so you couldn't afford the heating, so you'd go to the cinema for heat, so you'd end up seeing films that were just for almost nothing, that were dodgy. I saw a Street Fighter film, I saw that in the cinema because it was cold in the winter. I wanted heat. So you do that. I used to walk around the house I was staying in with my pal Darren, and we would walk around with duvets around us because it was so cold, and what put films on is watch the films. You know, a combination of Hammer films and obscure action films I got, because I had a pass at the library at university, so you could get tapes out all the time, so I'd bring tapes back all the time. So we'd watch a lot of, so I'd bring one tape that was art house, one tape that was entertainment, and one tape that was cheesy as hell, because it had tons of everything. And I'd watch the art house thing, and then we'd watch the obscure stuff and the weird things together, and it was always a lot of fun. And we'd watch the Burbs a lot. The Burbs we watched a lot. And Hammer films, lots of Hammer films. And the great thing at the university was the library. I used to photocopy everything. I've still got a lot of the photocopies of like old film comments and American cinematographers, and you'd read all the books, get all the books in, read all the books. And I mean, I liked the education for the library more than the education itself, because the library was so good. You'd get your education, what stuff they want you to watch, and then you'd get what you want to watch, what you want to read about. So I'd read about stuff that was never going to be the curriculum, but interested me, and they'd have it in the library. and then you'd go and watch the films they want you to watch. But also great, you'd get like a wavelength. You know, the film is 40 minutes long and it's just a room. It's how the camera goes in and out and changes and change perspective. I love that film. No one else liked it but me. Everyone else in the film class was watching it going, what the hell are we watching? I thought it was great. I was always the guy that liked the weird thing. I'm still the guy that likes the weird thing. Also, I mean, so you'd see a lot of stuff like Straub and all the kind of more obscure directors, and they'd have screenings of certain films you'd have to watch as part of the lecture. Then you'd do the lectures as well, and you'd take your notes and things. So you'd see a lot of interesting films. And then sometimes, once in a while, the masters class would say, we're showing this film, if you want to go see it, you can come and see it. So I'd go and see Stan Brakhage films that weren't part of curriculum, but you were free that afternoon, so you'd go and see it anyway. And I was the only one that ever went. You know, I was looking at me like, who the hell is this guy? You know, that's who I was. Also, because I was in Sheffield Hallam, the Sheffield University had a film society, so I just joined that as well. So I'd usher there, so you get to see the films for free and you get in the best seats. So you'd usher all the films. You'd see the mainstream films. The Wednesday night would have the art house films. Friday, Saturday night would be the mainstream films. And Sunday night would be the cult films. So you just usher the films you wanted to see. And to be honest, a lot of the time, the films that I really wanted to see were the films no one else wanted to see. So I would always get to usher the films I really wanted. And other films, if I couldn't usher, because you'd have to get in early to usher the films you wanted, I'd just buy a ticket and see it anyway. But that would rarely happen. So university was great. I loved those 3 years watching everything I wanted. Again, you analyse a lot more. So even though you become more analytical, you become less pure about everything. You're not seeing it as a kid anymore, you're seeing it as with a more critical brain. You're still watching films for the love of watching films. So that's what I kind of got out of being a film student. It's like, you know it's never going to give you anything that's marketable in the real world, but it's a good experience to have. I mean, people really shit on being a film student now. It's like, you can watch stuff on your own, you're paying money for all this. Well, when I went, it was before you paid, it was still part of the state education. So I didn't pay, I got a student loan because I was just to live on a bit more, but that wasn't much compared to what you have to pay now. So it was a bit different then. I could actually, you know, I wasn't paying for it, I was just getting educated. So it was great. I mean, I really enjoyed that. It was 3 years, great stuff. And the thing is, by learning that, I was never the best student for marks, like for getting good grades, because I had this thing of I would never answer the question that was asked of me, because I was always interested in what I was interested in. And a lot of things that the lecturers were interested in, I wasn't. So I'd always get these things back. I'd passed, but it was like, interesting answer, you didn't always answer the question. I was like, I passed. You know, who cares? I passed. It's fine. I survived. So after that, I've just been a collector. Like VHS, I collected. You know, then VHS, you had the VHS era from the 80s, which was just the pan and scan versions. In the 90s, you had the VHS, but you also had the VHS widescreens with the logo VHS widescreen, the way it was meant to be seen. And then at the turn of the century, we got DVDs. And then eventually we got Blu-rays. Actually, the worst part I found was the DVD era. It was 8 years between. I mean, there was DVDs out. I think it was late 90s, but no one really got into them. I think until the 2000s. At least for me, I went into the 2000s because it was still didn't look quite right. And the VHS weren't great, but they had depth to the image, and the Blu-rays gave great clarity and depth to the image, but DVDs were clear, but they're very flat images. I always hated that. I still don't like that. Even if I've got on VHS now, it's the only way you can see them is to watch them on VHS. It's like, I like them, but I'd rather watch it on Blu-ray because you get the depth. I like depth's a big thing for me in films. I think depth is really important. So depth is always a big thing, and I always much prefer. I mean, DVD was great for the extras. The extras, that was the peak time for extras. But the best time for actually watching films after that was Blu-ray. Blu-ray is so much better. Blu-ray really is what DVD would be. So I'm still a massive collector. I still collect stuff. I'm still fascinated with films. I've still got this camera equipment. The joke with me is I'm a total sucker for camera equipment. Like, I always buy new things and I'm always upgrading things because I just love all that stuff. It's just that thing I like doing. So I've got green screens, I've got lights, I've got everything. Not because I need to do it for this, it's because I want to do it for this, because I just like this stuff. And, you know, I'm still obsessed with films. I still love reading as well. I still love drawing. I mean, I'm still into what I'm into. I'm fairly focused on what I like, and other stuff doesn't interest me as much. You know, I mean, I'm interested in the world as well. I watch the news, I watch all this other stuff. I'm still fascinated by the world. But my thing is film. That's my way to express myself, really. It's film. I've made film and unsuccessfully. I've tried to be a writer and developed things through producers, and they never went anywhere. I made a film in the late 90s called Edict, which was a disaster. It just didn't work. It was the film I had to make to learn what not to do, to learn how to do stuff. Because you learn stuff in film school, right, which is very theoretical, but you need to actually do something, do it wrong to figure out what. No, that's wrong. You're not going to do what you're going ahead that way. So I made another film in the mid-noughties, mid to late noughties, called The Arabian Nostalgic, which had its problems. I mean, we made it for no money. I paid for it. Unprofessional actors, all that. But I liked it. It was a lot more. It was much more close to what I wanted. I mean, I had some sound problems with it because I was more a visual person, a sound person. And I should have paid more attention to sound making that one, and I never. And that was a problem. That's always been the problem with that one. But I like it though, so I've made a film I like, which is a big thing. And so I'm always fascinated with films. I'm always really interested in films. So that's how I got into films. I don't really think there's much more I can say. I mean, there are a lot of things. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with Doctor Who, and I still like it. There's other things like that where I have my own little things that I like. But generally, I've always been interested in a variety of films. I like the pulp, cheesy stuff. I like the art house stuff. I like the film, mainstream films. I like a lot of everything, but as long as it's not boring, really. And my idea of boring is different from, you can be slow but not boring. Boring is when there's nothing, you've nothing to say about anything. It's just, you're just shooting stuff and there's no point of view. That's boring. If you have a joy of the filmmaking, I don't care what you're doing. If it's not boring, if you have a real joy for what you're doing, even if it's flawed. I love flawed films. I don't care if it's flawed. If there's a passion behind it, I will enjoy it. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it all made sense. I enjoyed yapping about it. And I'll see you in the next video.